Today's first question is,
What is the difference between ordinary love and extraordinary compassion of a master, a Sadguru?
very easy to understand. In ordinary love, it is a give and take phenomenon. When you give love, it is not unconditional. You want something in return too. In extraordinary compassion of a master, which is a higher form of love, it is only giving. There is no expectation to get anything back. And what a disciple can give, he is full of darkness. The master is full of light. The master can only give. The disciple can only take. Of course, the disciple will feel the gratitude. He would like to give everything, but you cannot return back anything to the master. He already has the light. So in ordinary love, it is a give and take relationship. There are conditions. If the other person stops giving, stops responding, your love will also disappear. Or if you do not give, then the other person will also stop giving. So it is a conditional mutual arrangement. But in compassion, it's sharing, it is giving unconditionally. I have heard a beautiful story of a blind girl who was blind since birth. There was some defect on her corneas. She hated herself very much and she wanted to commit suicide because nobody loved her and she also did not love herself. She wanted to get rid of this life. Only there was one boyfriend who used to love her, and because of this boyfriend, somehow she was alive. She also loved the boyfriend very much. The friend took great care of her in every situation. One day, he brought the news that in the hospital, there is some technology which is developed by the ophthalmologists. They can change the cornea and your eyes are curable. If somebody donates you his eyes, then you will be able to see. You will be no more blind. The girl was very happy, but she said, "Who is going to give me eyes?" The boyfriend replied, "You don't worry, I have already made the arrangements. Somebody is going to donate his eyes to you." The operation happened. After a few days, when she opened her eyes, she was able to see the world for the first time. She was so much surprised and she was feeling so much thankfulness for the boyfriend who arranged all this. He called the boyfriend, but when the boyfriend came in the room in the hospital, the girl was shocked because the boyfriend was blind himself. The boyfriend asked, "Now you have your eyes, will you marry me?" She said, "No, I cannot marry a blind man. This is too much. This is impossible." She refused him. The boyfriend left. After few months, she came to know from the doctors that boyfriend had donated his eyes to her. I was reading this story. I felt something of the compassion. This is not ordinary love from the boy. He was really compassionate. Of course, this story is not exactly parallel to the phenomenon which happens between a master and disciple, because master does not give his light or his eyes, but He makes arrangements to open your eyes because you are not really blind. You are just keeping your eyes open. You are fast asleep and dreaming. The master shakes you, wakes you up. That's all. So in fact, he does not give anything, but he is compassionate enough to make you wake up so you can also have the vision, you can also see, you can also become aware. So the compassion is extraordinary. It happens rarely. Love is ordinary. It happens every day. The second question is,
Atmagaurav has asked, scriptures of Vedant philosophy say that pure mind is soul. Is it so?
mind and soul are not two different entities. When the soul becomes polluted, impure, it is called mind. When the mind becomes pure, that means vacant, empty, then it is soul. You can understand in a different way. When you go to a sea beach and you observe the sea, in fact, what do you see? You see only the surface of the ocean. Of course, you say, I have seen the sea, but you have not seen the whole sea. The Pacific Ocean is 5 miles depth. You have not seen the depth, or you have seen only the waves on the surface. Similarly, what we call mind, it is the wavering on the surface of the consciousness. And what we call soul or consciousness is the depth of the same mind. These are not two separate things. The surface and depth of the ocean are part of the same ocean. Actually, they are not even parts. It is one ocean. So the Vedanta and the Rishis of Upanishad are saying the ultimate truth. Yes, it is true. Mind and soul are one. They are not two separate things. You penetrate in the mind, go to the depths, and you will realize the consciousness. You will find your soul. That's why all the meditation processes tell you to go beyond mind. That means don't remain swimming on the surface. Dive deep. Sant Kabir says, Gehre pani pet. Go deep in the depths. You will find the cosmic consciousness. That is your soul. I have heard a beautiful story of a Sufi saint. He has a disciple. He was meditating for many, many years, but his mind was always disturbed. He never achieved even a small glimpse of peace. One day, the Sufi mystic told him, I have tried my best to teach you, but it seems you are unable to learn. So I send you to another Sufi master. Go to him, maybe he can help you. The masters in Sufism, in Jainism, in Taoism have been very compassionate. They have been sending their disciples to other masters, to other ashrams, to different schools of meditation. Try some different technique. The disciple asked, please tell me, where do I have to go? The Sufi mystic said, I have a friend in the city. He runs a small hotel, a restaurant. You go to him. He is an enlightened person. The disciple was shocked. A owner of a hotel, a restaurant, and an enlightened master. If I could not learn meditation living in the ashram of the Sufi mystic, how will I learn in the restaurant, in the marketplace? But the master said, you go there. There is a chance you may learn something. So the disciple went there. Of course, not full-heartedly, just half-heartedly. He met the owner of the hotel. The owner said, I don't know how to teach. I don't know scriptures and principles. I don't have a great vocabulary. I'm just an ordinary shopkeeper, an ordinary businessman. So you just be here, watch me what I'm doing. You may learn something. So the disciple was sitting there watching the whole day. The customers were coming. He was providing them food, taking money from them, giving them change back, talking with people, discussing, taking care of them. So the whole day he watched him. There was nothing special. He thought this was a wastage of time. There is nothing special in this person. I have come unnecessarily. So he asked, I have watched you the whole day. The only thing which I do not know, what do you do in the night and what do you do early in the morning? That thing I do not know. So please tell me. The restaurant owner said, in the night I just wash all the utensils which are used during the day by the customers, the plates, the glasses, and all the other utensils, the spoons and forks. I wash them, clean them. In the early morning, I wake up and again I just remove the dust, because in the night also some dust gathers on everything. So those utensils I clean once more in the morning. That's all I do. So the disciple said, now bye-bye, I'm going back. There is nothing to be learned here. He went back to his Sufi mystic and he reported the whole incidents. The Sufi master said, he has said everything that could be said. This is the real spiritual practice. Wash the utensil. Your mind is like an utensil. You have used it the whole day. In the night, clean it. Remove the dust. In the morning, again, clean it once more, because during the night there are other activities of dreaming process going on. So again some dust gathers. Clean your mind again. This is the whole message. The consciousness is like a mirror. What we call mind is a collection of dust, of thoughts, of emotions, of memories, of future projections, etc. Just remove that dust, and then this pure mind is the mirror. This is the pure mirror, your soul, your consciousness. The last question.
Beloved Master, why do most people have a compulsion to gain money, power, prestige, and so on?
Let us listen to Osho's melodious voice on the same subject.
You have never been accepted by your parents, teachers, neighbors, society as you are. Everybody was trying to improve upon you, to make you better. Constant conditioning against you has created in you the idea that I am not enough as I am. Something is missing, and I have to be somewhere else, not here. This is not the place I am supposed to be. Somewhere higher, more powerful, more dominant, more respected, more well known. This is the half story, which is ugly, which should not be the case. This can be simply removed if people are a little bit more intelligent how to be mothers, how to be fathers, how to be teachers. You are not to spoil the child his self-respect, his acceptance of himself. You have to help to grow. But the second part is tremendously important. Even if all these conditionings are removed, you are deprogrammed. All these ideas are taken out of your mind. Then too you will feel you are not enough. But that will be a totally different experience. The words will be the same, but the experience will be different. You are not enough because you can be more. It will not be any more a question of becoming famous, respectable, powerful, rich. It will not be at all your concern. Your concern will be that your being is only a seed.